I am at the Kunsthistorisches Museum in Vienna, Austria. This historic institution contains plenty of ancient and old masterpieces, but in this video we're not concerned with that, as the museum is unique for its fascinating display called the Kunstkammer. The Kunstkammer is the cabinet of curiosities of the Habsburgs, featuring thousands of valuable treasures collected over the course of the 16th and 17th centuries. Archduke Ferdinand II in particular was an avid collector of all sorts of objects at Schloss Ambras near Innsbruck. This is the largest Kunstkammer or cabinet of curiosities in the world on display intact. Obviously these objects are displayed and curated much differently than they used to be, but this should be amazing. The Kunstkammer is displayed throughout 20 ornate rooms. Each room is themed to a certain collector, time period, and type of art. This is the Krumau Madonna from 1400. This famous sculpture once had gilding and polychromy. Here is a fancy 14th century Venetian game board for chess and backgammon. These are examples of ivory artwork from Gothic France. Workshops in Paris specialize in the production of ivory objects during the 13th and 14th centuries. This is the Heiligenkreuz altar, made in the courtly Gothic style that prevailed in Europe around 1400. Here is a portrait of Luxembourg's last emperor Sigismund. It is among the earliest examples of autonomous princely portraits ever made north of the Alps. Kaiser Karl IV enjoyed the various mineral resources of Bohemia by having all sorts of glyptic art made, inlaid with agate and amethyst. Here is a fantastic inlaid reliquary bust of a holy bishop, made in Prague. This is awesome, a French tapestry with unicorns, similar to the famous Lady with the Unicorn at the Musée de Cluny in Paris. This is a fire breather, made in northern Italy in the 12th century. The figure could be filled with water through the hole in its neck, then when placed in embers it would blow steam out of its mouth and nose. This room exhibits 15th century artwork and sculpture contrasting Italy and the north. Here are 7 busts of prophets made in Venice by a member of the Circle of Pier Paolo. This is a magnificent Florentine marble relief of the Madonna and Child. Lots of inexpensive plaster copies of this piece were made in the 15th century, which made this one quite iconic. And here's a terracotta relief of Alexander the Great. Lorenzo de' Medici sent 2 reliefs just like this to the Persian king Darius. Here is a laughing boy, a marble sculpture by Desiderio da Settignano. He actually invented the genre of small personal busts, so many wealthy Florentine families commissioned busts of their young boys. This is actually one of the earliest ever child portraits in the history of art. Here's a terracotta infant Christ with grapes and a fig, also made in Florence. This is the Vanitas group, called the Allegory of Transience, made in Ulm around 1470. These 3 figures were carved from a single piece of wood and represent the beauty of youth and its transience, as contrasted by this naked old woman. The Young Couple by Tullio Lombardo is representative of a new genre of non-functional art made for private collectors, which was a new concept at that time. They claim that this is one of the most important Venetian Renaissance sculptures. This may be a bust of Laura, a character written about by the poet Petrarch, by Francesco Laurana. That artist made several busts like this, but this is the only one that retains its original polychromy. Here is a large 16th century tapestry that was made in Brussels. That is a bust by Alessandro Vittoria, who was stylistically influenced by his fellow Venetian Titian. He is one of several artists who gained great personal prestige during this early era of patronage. That's a whole collection of bronze statuettes, which became commonplace for art connoisseurs. Oh wow! This is an automaton made in the late 16th century. It's a Spanish-made cittern player, which has a mechanism inside that can make her play, turn her head, and walk along a table. That is a mini cabinet composed of gilded iron, silver, and bronze. Here is a Florentine bronze depicting a violent abduction. That makes for a nice home decoration. This Kunstkammer was really started by Margaret of Austria, daughter of Maximilian I, who became the regent of the Netherlands in 1507. That is a terracotta portrait of Margaret, made at her capital of Mechelen in 1528. This Adam and Eve was made by Conrad Melt, Margaret's court sculptor. And here is a terracotta bust of a man made in the Netherlands. This altarpiece supposedly has more pictures in it than any other piece of German artwork made in the 16th century. That is a lot. Here are some wood-carved little playing cupids. And this is a great tapestry featuring the imperial eagle and arms of Kaiser Karl V. There's a wonderful painted Bavarian table clock made in 1545. That is Kaiser Ferdinand I, who is credited with starting the Kunstkammer collection here in Vienna around 1554. He acquired all sorts of fine arts, along with coins and other antiques. Also, he intensely documented the provenance. This is the most famous and valuable piece in the Kunstkammer, the Saliera, or salt cellar. This is the only work in gold by the famous Florentine artist Benvenuto Cellini, made in 1543. The world's most extravagant salt cellar here is an allegory of the cosmos, made of gold, ebony, and ivory. In 2003, the salt cellar was actually stolen from the museum, but luckily they found it unharmed, buried in a box in the forest. And there's an ornamental ewer on the right, along with a historic golden cup on the left decorated with precious stones, that was owned by King Francois I of France. These are the only surviving bronze figures of a mechanical silver fountain that was commissioned by Maximilian II in 1528. However, it was melted down to finance the refurbishment of the Vienna treasury. So this is all that remains. Here's a painting of Mars surrounded by all sorts of popular recreational activities in the 16th century. These are double inlaid cups made of gilded silver. Duke William V of Bavaria gave this ensemble to his daughter Maria Anna for her wedding to future Habsburg Kaiser Ferdinand II. They just happen to be cousins. These are fascinating pieces by the stonecutter Gasparo Miseroni, who worked to create precious stone vessels in Milan. These two are composed of lapis lazuli, gold, rubies, emeralds, and pearls. These fancy cups and galleon models are made of silver and all sorts of precious crystals, as are these clocks and astrolabes. This is so freaking cool. Here is a small cabinet with gilded copper plates and bronze reliefs to store little objets d'art. And here's another 1560 cabinet made in Nuremberg, which could be used as a mini Kunstkammer. These are objects collected by Kaiser Rudolf II, who is considered the most important collector of the House of Habsburg Kunstkammer. He definitely preferred collecting over politics. That is a bronze sculpture of Holy Roman Emperor Rudolf II. This is an automaton of a galleon made in 1585 by Hans Schlotheim. He made some of the most advanced mechanical devices of his day. For example, the ship can be propelled across a table, the crew members can move to music, and the cannons can fire a salvo. And here's an automaton with the Triumph of Bacchus, made by Schlotheim in 1602. Man, I wish we could see these run. That is a clock with a pasha on horseback, made in the late 16th century. And here's a gilded silver table automaton with Diana on a centaur. This is the allegory of the Turkish war in Hungary, in which Minerva is freeing Hungary from the Ottomans. Rudolf II had a lot of bronze sculptures like this at Prague Castle. This basin depicts the story of Europa. Rudolf II acquired this from one of the finest Augsburg goldsmiths. That's an ornamental ewer basin from 1601, used for washing hands at his courtly table. There's a mechanical celestial globe, along with a planetary clock, which was supposedly the first heliocentric timepiece ever made. There were many fanciful mechanical clocks at the Prague Kunstkammer, which show the position of the sun in the zodiac, the lengths of days and nights, and even the number of days since the last full moon. This room contains valuable objects made of precious stones. Rudolf II had agents search all over for the finest and rarest specimens to create these fantastic pieces of glyptic art. That is a cabinet chest made by a Florentine master who Rudolf II had transplanted to Prague. It's built of ebony, agates, jaspers, and lapis lazuli. The Kaiser also used precious stones to portray his imperial majesty publicly in the tradition of the Roman emperors, so all sorts of rare stone panels were made as symbols of his rule. This is a double-sided painted slab of alabaster. This side is the Annunciation, and this is the Adoration of the Shepherds. A cabinet of curiosities usually features exotic objects from faraway places, so this room has just that, historically correlating with the age of exploration. This is an elephant salt cellar made in India in 1550. It is one of the earliest exotica items acquired by the Habsburgs. Here is a drinking horn in the form of a dragon, made out of tortoiseshell in Goa. It was then turned into a bizarre drinking horn by an Augsburg goldsmith. That is an ewer surrounding half a giant Seychelles nut. It was found on an Indian Ocean beach. That is an ornamental basin with a giant clam and scallop shells. And here's an ornamental basin made in Nuremberg, but based on a type of decoration that was popular in India, with the mother of pearl platelets. These pieces are tremendous, and I'm just showing a few of them. That game board, with richly decorated wooden intarsia and zinc inlay, was custom made for Archduke Ferdinand II. And this is a mini cabinet of Ferdinand I, the Holy Roman Emperor, composed of ebony, maple, nutwood, and silver, of course. That is a writing set made of silver by a famed Nuremberg goldsmith. These rock crystal pieces were considered among the most valuable items in Ferdinand II's Kunstkammer at Schloss Ambras. These are glazed joke vessels made in the late 1500s. They were considered pretty humorous back in the day, and as a bonus they could be used for drinking. I like that guy wearing a table for some reason. These are cool. They are known as handstones, which are samples of rock or ore that are artistically altered with miniature scenes. These have mining and religious subjects. There is a giant gilded tower automaton, next to another automaton made of ebony with a mechanical band. Here is a tabletop with a marble base, topped by another fantastic automaton. That is a bust of Kaiser Ferdinand III made of painted wax. He moved the Kunstkammer from Schloss Ambras in Innsbruck to the Hofburg here in Vienna, where people could see the collection as part of the Schatzkammer, but they were charged an admission fee. These are equestrian statuettes of various Habsburg rulers. During the 17th century they really liked these, but only made one full-scale equestrian statue of themselves. This cabinet, made of all sorts of wood, along with silver, ivory, and shell, was made for Ferdinand III in 1638. Entering into the Baroque period, Kaiser Leopold I continued collecting. He was particularly fond of carved ivory, such as this example, the Martyrdom of Saint Sebastian. There were ivory carving workshops here in Vienna at that time. That is an ivory carving of Emperor Leopold I on horseback, leaping over a defeated Ottoman. This ivory and ebony carving is called the Triumph of Leopold I, in which he is throned above his Ottoman adversaries. This tapestry was probably designed by Jacob Jordans. These are beautiful pieces inlaid with all sorts of rock crystals and gemstones, especially that double-headed eagle, symbol of the Habsburgs. That's amazing. This is a votive panel depicting Duke Charles V of Lorraine, made in gratitude of his victory over French troops in the Black Forest in 1678. This rock crystal table fountain is in the shape of a freaking lion-dragon cryptid. If an ignorant guest at the imperial dinner table pressed the lever on its breast, water would unexpectedly spray out at them. Starting in the early 18th century, the Habsburg collection was drastically changed, and by the late 19th century was specialized into various court museums. This section of the Kunsthistorisches Museum was specially designed to impress the importance of the Habsburgs as important patrons of the arts throughout the centuries. The ceiling mural actually depicts several Habsburg collectors with their most important artists and objects. This magnificent final treasure of the Kunstkammer is a colossal table centerpiece with a model of the ancient Roman ruins of Paestum, composed of alabaster, marble, terracotta, and gilded bronze. So the Kunstkammer is fantastic. It's a fascinating experience to go through and really highlights the development of artwork and personal taste of the Habsburgs in a changing European and global landscape. Definitely visit the Kunsthistorisches Museum for this alone. It is quite unique for an art museum, and it can take quite a while to get through. But that was certainly not all that's here, as this museum is home to one of the greatest Old Masters collections in the world. I show that in my main Kunsthistorisches Museum video, which is linked in the description. I also have all sorts of videos featuring Vienna museums and attractions, as well as other institutions across Europe and the US. Please like this video, share it, and subscribe to my channel for more. Thanks for watching!